We're live.
All right.
All right. Let's call to order at 6 o'clock. Let's see what's on the agenda. All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the June 3rd and July 1st meetings?
So moved. Actually, I think I have to abstain from that.
From the July 1, Lee, but June 3rd, you were there.
All right. So moved on June 1st.
I'll do the July one. So moved.
Was there a second? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is this for July 1st?
June 3rd and then July
June
1st.
3rd,
I have to abstain
June
from July
3rd,
1st.
July 1st, I abstain. I wasn't attending.
All right, this vote's just for the June meeting.
Okay. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Okay, June 3rd's approved. Do we have enough to vote on July, or do we just want to do that at the next one?
You can, so even if people are abstaining, you can still use their, they still count as a quorum. So just the people who aren't abstaining can vote.
Oh, I'll move to approve the July 1st minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against?
Abstain. Frank abstains.
Abstain, Lee.
And I think Amy would abstain too.
I don't know, her audio's not on. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I just was about to say that, but Bob got to it faster.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay, so those are approved. Okay, Bob, do we want to vote to award the Wallen boiler bid that we discussed in the last meeting?
Yeah, just for the school committee, you know, kind of, they're aware that it was, the numbers were included in their packet. But, you know, you know, I think one of the things that the building committee has to kind of find their way, there's, I don't know, maybe Lee, you could weigh in on this, but there's like a tipping point where at some point, if we get into the $17 million project, you know, there's votes that have to be taken at the building committee level. The charter says we have the authority to award contracts, but we kind of have this, you know, reciprocating agreement where we always let the school committee know, or, you know, so I don't know. Any comments from the folks?
Yeah, let me just talk to that. How this, the charter is kind of worded around the original construction of the school district.
Correct.
So therefore, before the school district and before there was a school committee, there was a building committee. One of the things that at some point has to get resolved is that language. Someday we'll get to it. In the meantime, the right way that this works is the school committee would approve the project. So, you know, the towns, the taxpayers, the school committee will approve the project number, that's whatever it is, $17 million. Once that's approved, at that point, this building committee has the ability to award the contracts.
Okay.
And that is traditionally how it has been in all the years I've been on the building committee.
Correct. And because this is, I think we're in the 5th year of our MOA, there was an initial 2.7 million approved by the school committee to do projects, but the projects have been so, there've been a lot of smaller ones, but I would say in relative terms, not like a $6 million project, you know, it's a lot of these couple of $100,000 projects. But at any rate, for the sake of this meeting, the school committee is aware both contracts came in under, well under what we had, you know, projected that it would cost. So we're just looking for all of the bodies that do the auditing to have it recorded in minutes that we took this action.
Yeah, because I've been called by both of them to come in and start.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the contract awards.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone against? Nope. Motion passes.
Thank you. So that brings us to item 3. So the Walloon boiler, which was in roughly, it's going to be $122,000 contract in the Metcalf classroom entryway, which is a $20,020 contract. Those will be the last contracts performed under the existing MOA that expires on June 30th, 2021. So roughly 11 months from now. So I just put that out there to let the building committee know that as we move forward into the bond project, that would establish the next 5-year memorandum of agreement for the school district. In that memorandum is through the Council on Elementary and Secondary Education, so it's the RIDE board. It's pushed up through the legislators, so budgetarily the legislators know what RIDE is going to be spending in the statewide on projects. It's a budget number. It's not an obligation, although they do expect us to do 50% of any of the projects that we get a memorandum of agreement for. So, and why we need that, the district needs it, but every district needs it, is that's the mechanism, the memorandum of agreement with RIDE is the mechanism by which we receive our reimbursement. EWG receives their reimbursement. So we're on item 4, we're moving forward with the stage 2, and I'll talk to that when we get there. But basically stage 2 submittal and the going forward would be ultimately, or the desire, I think, is for an approval of the memorandum of agreement for the $17 million bond. The memorandum agreement says, hey, EWG is going to do these projects. It's going to cost $17 million. If that gets voted on and approved, now we have that memorandum of agreement. Now we go to the taxpayer and we say, will you give us the money, or will you support a $17 million bond? And if that were to not be a successful vote, what I'm working through with RIDE is, so what does that mean to the MOA? Do we need to have specific language that says we're self-fund, that we would self-fund some of those projects? And if so, do we have to monetize it and identify those projects that we would self-fund? Because I didn't say that, Lee was on the committee back 5 years ago. Amy, you weren't there yet, but when we were starting to look at capital projects, the current MOA that expires in June, and the decision was to self-fund about $2.7 million worth of projects. And that's been great. It's a great model. I support it wholeheartedly, but it was, it's certainly a couple of the projects in the $17 million bond project. It's a big number, the HVAC and the roofs at Metcalf and at Walloon would be hard to accumulate the millions of dollars to self-fund that right out of the gate.
Well, let me back up a little further, because
Sure.
we started with the first MOA back, and I believe it was early 2013, right after the Sandy Hook massacre, when we needed to upgrade our security. And you know, at the time, we had sources of income that would allow us to self-fund, and we, with the reimbursement every year from the state, we balanced it out such that we've been doing that now for 8 years. I think that's pretty accurate.
Correct.
But moving forward, our capital reserves are pretty much exhausted. We don't have any other source of income at the moment that I'm aware of that's sizable. So moving forward, it's going to be a lot more difficult to self-fund. And but if the taxpayers vote down the $17 million, we'll go through November, we get approval, it goes to vote in April. If they approve it, no problem. But if they shoot it down, we have to have a backup plan in place, because basically this $17 million is the necessary work to keep us moving. So I don't know where we stand with, you know, other sources of income, but maybe Bob, you can shed some light on it. But I think from a capital perspective, what do we got, about 100, 200,000 left?
Yeah, after these projects going in, I mean, we'll come up with the new numbers for, if it sounds as crazy as it is, for 2022. But Lee, you're right, it's probably in the couple of $100,000 to $300,000 range. You know, so that's not, and I think, so what I'm trying to discuss, what I'm trying to get to with Ed Ride is, do we as a building committee and a school committee need to say, here's $17 million worth of projects that we're going to go to bond for? And if we would like an MOA for that. If the bond doesn't pass, can we self-fund and try and do some of those projects?
Yeah.
The common answer is yes. I agree with you 100%, Lee. What they bend the conversation to say, you do the $17 million of bond, and then you do, like the MOA has, I'll just pick a number, $5 million of self-funding projects. In the kind of where we're trying to sort out as well, do we have to say the $5 million will be separate projects from the 17, or can it be?
Here's where, Bob, let me help you. Here's where I disagree with Claudine and probably the majority of the school committee. We need a backup plan should the $17 million fail. I think what we should have in our hip pocket is an MOA drafted, ready to go should it fail, to be submitted the day after it fails, such that there's no confusion in the vote. Because, you know, we don't want the taxpayers to get confused and think, oh my God, they're going to go in 17 million and 5 million. Now it's a $22 million project. I disagree totally with Claudine there. I think we need to be very cautious as to how we approach it. And I definitely agree that it's got to be a subset of the 17 million.
Right. And once I have that confirmed, then I think, Lee, the building committee looks at, okay, what projects of that 17 million could we do? And I'll bring those documents forward that show the projects we're going to do. There are some on there that I think there'd be unanimity that, no, we're not going to do that. And then there's others that we'd all want to do, but it's a big nut to get that, you know, just I'll use the HVAC. That's a $4 million lift in probably, what do you think, to do that from start to finish? 18 months, a year, maybe?
The lead time on that's going to probably be 6 months. Once you have all the equipment, landing it on the roof and hooking it up isn't going to be a big deal. I think you can get it. I think if you did it, if you place the order in January, by September, you'd be up and running. The issue is the big lift. Where's the, it's a $4 million project. We would have to come up with at least 3 of that and hope that we get the reimbursement early enough to pay off the rest of the bill.
Right. And that's not a throwaway comment you said, Lee. You have insight to it that maybe some of the members on the committee don't have, of the building committee. And that is, as we complete work, if we do, let's just say we're getting 75 cents on every dollar, we submit $1 million and they give us $750,000 back. That allows us to keep, the project moving forward. It's just the frequency and the timing of those events that we need to nail down.
And just something else that's different now is the state's got $1 billion problem, and it's probably going to grow based upon what I just heard. It's probably going to become a $2 billion problem come September 1st.
Yeah, there is that.
Just a quick question, Bob.
Sure.
Because back in 2012, we had a much healthier organization, or I should say younger organization. Is there available funding in the WB to help contribute to this? Because that's a viable use.
Yeah, there is. We have some undesignated funds that we could move around from other areas, from other funds, one of them being the health fund. But
I'm hoping that the 17 million is going to get approved.
Yeah.
I know the towns still support that. I've had discussions about that with at least West Greenwich.
Yeah.
So I think there's still support amongst the town council for the projects. They know they have to keep the buildings maintained, and this is 99% maintenance. So.
Yeah, Steve, you want to talk about what you're concerned about this year with the HVAC?
One, classrooms that have no heat. 4 of them that right now we have. The HVAC has been giving us problems in the library, and that's an old unit. And we only have 1 unit actually working for the auditorium. The other unit is kaput. It's not repairable. And so we've been babying I'm lucky I have guys that have so much knowledge. They've been babying the one for the auditorium. So.
Well, if we're talking about, so much longer. If we have to, we can replace individual units to hobble us by.
That would be more expensive. We'd have to get more roof. We'd have to get them on the roof. And then
I know. I'm not saying. I agree with you, Steve. Hiring a crane for one day and having them all plopped up there is a hell of a lot cheaper than bringing a crane in for a couple of hours and having to bring it back and then bring it back and then bring it back.
Right.
But at the same time, if we have to go at the HVAC, the kids need heat. I know it's bad in the library. We were in there this past winter with no heat a couple of times. And then we were in there recently and there was no air conditioning, so we're melting. So, I know it's a problem. But the way we may have to fix this thing is 1 unit at a time. Pick the one that's worse, and that's the one we target, and that's the one we do. And then we pick the next one, and we just go through it. Let's face it, we're not going to be redesigning the building enough that it's going to matter at this point. It's just a matter of getting everything up there modernized.
Yeah.
What would the efficiency savings be too? Because if we have 1, we can go after efficiency dollars. Those units are what, 25 years old, 30 years old? I'm sure that
30 years old.
So the electric companies would be very happy for us to replace those. So there's money there that we can get. I know that for a fact. So that could help contribute to this project as well. If they'll give us, let's just say, I've seen somewhere it's up to 50% they'll give you for modernizing this stuff. So it's a $200,000 unit. Electric company kicks in $100,000. Plus, then you've got your energy savings on top of that moving forward.
I have a question.
And that'll help pay for it.
So I have a question. These roof units, Are they propane fired, oil fired, or are they electric?
I believe they're all electric.
They're all what?
We have no,
They're all electric?
all electric. Yes,
Basically heat pumps then?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Was that what was originally in there?
Yep.
I'm surprised. The new units, especially the Mitsubishi, makes a very nice unit, which can be adapted for ductwork systems, where you get heating and cooling from the unit. I don't know what has there been any
We have
research
electric
done on the type of
some of the
unit?
areas. We have electric reheats in some of the units that are just shot, they're non-existent, they just don't work. We have all kinds of issues with that kind of stuff, so. If they're old.
All I'm trying to point out is that if you calculate your energy savings, you approach Narragansett Electric and get the discounts there. You know, that's other ways to buy the cost of this thing down such that it'll make it more affordable. Maybe we wind up getting a couple units at a time. You know what I'm saying?
I would just say, you know, I think maybe, I know that this kind of brings us to hold on. The next agenda item, which is the update on the stage 2. So Lou and his team, they are looking at the 17 million worth of projects, and obviously the scope of work has been scaled back. They've been getting clarity over with the superintendent about, you know, the science at the science labs at the senior high school in particular. So there's really nothing major going on regarding the structure. You know, no demo, no new classrooms, no repurposing classrooms. So he's coming up with, you know, the new drawings and the new cost estimates. And I think once he has that document, which will go forward to as part of the stage 2 submittal. I mean, obviously the building committee wants to see that before it's submitted, and that will happen. And then we can kind of continue this conversation, Lee. You know what I mean? Around, okay, if it's a $4.8 million project for HVAC, I'll just stay on HVAC. What if we took that and broke it down? What would we say is the best attack plan, given if we can't do 4.8 million in a 12-month period, you know, what's an alternate plan? You know, and I think that's kind of the plan and the pocket kind of thing.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
That's fine. Just like I said, the purpose of my discussion was just basically to get people thinking about other ways to finance this thing, because that's going to be a big poke. And if we can find creative ways to finance it, helps everybody, gets it done.
Yeah.
I mean, we just put in a new air compressor at work last year, and it was a $125,000 unit. And I believe the electric company picked up just about half of it. So.
You know, I've done some projects with Rise on commercial buildings we own, and they actually finance some of the projects for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for the district, Steve was part of it. We did all the LED lighting at the junior, senior high, and it's like they did paid 75%. The balance we're paying, you know, it's pay on bill. So it's like no, it's like net zero by the time you get the efficiencies and the maintenance all taken care of, you know. So and there's a local guy, he's a West Greenwich guy, Jerry Drummond. He works for Grid. Steve works with them a lot. So
Just make sure you bill the state of Rhode Island the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm seeking cover from the building committee here, and I hope I can get consensus, but on the stage 2, Torado forward me a bunch of documents that are on EWG letterhead that need to be refreshed because, you know, it's been a year. I really don't know that we need to go back to the towns for the support letters to be refreshed.
The support letters aren't a year old, are they?
That's what I want to hear.
The support
No, they're
letters
not a
didn't
year
come-
old,
The support letters didn't come until spring of this year.
Good.
Yeah, I think you're fine, Bob.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, now is not a good time to go back to the towns.
Really? What makes you say that?
You saw the vote.
Okay. Enough said.
Wait till after November.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Everything gets better in November.
All right, Bob, what else do you need to do? Or do we need
that's
to
all I
do?
really needed. We needed to, the big thing was to memorialize, you know, to get the votes. The other was I just wanted to make the committee really aware, you know, to try and get everybody at the level of awareness that we're all equal, that, you know, this MOA come June 30th, 2021, we don't have one anymore. That's what the bond is going to do. I'm going to continue to work with RIDE to try and figure out that capital project element of it. And I might end up inviting them, you know, before I invited anybody, I'd run it through the chairs to say, hey, you want them to come and explain it. And then, you know, the other was on those, on the updated documents. I looked at most of them, they're benign, it's just changing them, but I had no wind in the sails to go back to the towns to ask for a you know, an updated letter of approval. I think we're good for this, so. Because
I'm
it
going
can't come late in the year.
to make a suggestion to you, Bob, and Steve, and Jeremy. You know, the three of you might want to put your heads together once we have the stage 2 submittal and start dissecting that for what's important for the backup plan, and then bring that to the building committee so that if we bring everything to the school committee, and I won't be on the school committee when that happens, but if you bring everything to the school committee, I'm not sure what you're going to wind up with. But I think if you guys focus on what's important and come up with, say, another $5 million MOA, you know, and prioritize it properly, and then have that in your back pockets, if in fact it fails. I'm praying that it doesn't. You know, I think that would be the way to go about getting that done, rather than, you know, bring everything to the school committee and then have the school committee pick. You know, the playground's going up everywhere and won't get the HVAC fixed. That's my concern.
Yeah.
I agree. We should set priorities.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree with
Bob,
that.
sounds fine. And the only other comment I'll make is be careful when you're going back and forth with RIDE about trying to do whatever you were saying with this MOA and take part of it and have the option to self-fund and all that. Just, I kind of agree with Lee. It could get a little bit messy, and especially the part where they expect you to do 50% of the MOA. Like, what are they going to carve out and say, well, if you self-fund, then you only have to do 50% of the self-fund part, or it gets really hairy.
Yeah. That's a great point, James. That's why they look at it like 2 silos. You know, there's your bond, and then there's your self-funding. In the self-funding they call it the capital asset protection element of it. And that's what I'm trying to sort through, like, so that the district doesn't end up on the hook for 50% of 17 million when you know, in the example I've been using, if it's self-funding 5 million, you only have to do $2.5 million worth of work. The goal is, the benchmark is 50% of any MOA has to be at least met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had this whole conversation with Colliers, with Ride, when we went through this whole thing last time. They were pretty clear that they wouldn't split it the way we wanted to.
You're
And the way
correct.
we're
You're
trying
correct,
to now.
James. You're
Yeah.
absolutely correct.
Right, exactly. And that's the part that is really, you know, sometimes you hang up the phone and you don't know if you've been bamboozled or if you've been enlightened, you know?
Yeah, Collier's was pretty clear that you might be shooting yourself in the foot if you even try to put something like that in there. I don't
Well,
know.
I believe we had a pretty detailed finance plan that in the finance plan, the last one that was submitted anyway for the 17 million that was presented, it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't we doing we were doing the 1 year things there for a while, and then we were going to roll into a bond afterwards. I forget what those things were called.
Bands.
Yeah, the bands.
The bands, that's it.
Yeah.
And then we were going to do the bonds afterwards. But I think we stay away from self-funding until we have it in our hip pocket. It's not discussed until after the vote, if the vote fails. If the vote passes, we got nothing to worry about.
Right. Right.
I guess the question is, if we do that and the vote fails, what's it going to take to get the lesser MOA signed with Ride? Like, what's the timeline for that? Is there like a whole nother submission deadline?
I believe you have to start over.
Yeah. And that's why that's why Ride wants them kind of coming in the two silos together. So the MOA is approving both of them. And, you know, if the bond fails, you do this. If the bond passes, you do this. And even in the best scenario, what you're actually doing is you're saying, we've got a capital reserve and we've got a bond. And these are the projects we're doing with the bond, and these are the projects we're doing with the capital reserve. And under the MOA, we're going to get our 75% for the bond, and we're going to get our 75% for the capital reserve. We're kind of putting a little twist on it of saying, well, if the bond doesn't approve, then we've got to move to the capital reserve self-fund model. And
I'm gonna stop you for a second, because you know, if we're self-funding and if we get shot down, and with all the baloney we've gone through with Ride, I would think that they would fast track something to keep us going on a smaller scale. It hasn't been a problem getting that in the past. And I know, based upon what you just said, the taxpayers are going to get awfully confused. In 5 minutes, they're going to say, well, they're not doing 17 million, they're doing 22.
Yeah, that's the part we want to be really clear on.
Yeah, I think the problem is, even if you're crystal clear, it can just get twisted and the optics look bad. I mean, look what happened with the last vote. I mean, all you need is something to go out that says, you know, because technically speaking, no matter how careful you are, Ride is pretty flexible. Like, you could end up, not that we would, but you could end up spending more than 17 and just rework the projects. So it could just come out looking like we're trying to get more. I don't know. There's no great options. I don't know why Ride ties your hands so much.
It's all about control, James. That's all it is lately. They just want to control everybody and everything associated with education. It almost looks like they're pushing for one state school district run by Providence.
Because they're a great poster child. Anyway.
Yeah. What not to do.
Yeah, they're excellent.
All right, Bob. So what's next for this? When are we going to have to vote on something or discuss something next?
I think we're good. the projects for the summer are moving forward. I'm waiting for Lou to come back with, or Toronto to come back with their revised drawings and cost estimates. And I'm continuing the conversation with RIDE. And as that kind of gets tightened up, we can, I'll definitely keep everybody abreast. I would just defer to the committee if they, it's going to be probably pretty quiet as far as everything goes. Toronto will be busy doing his thing. He's probably has a few weeks worth of work.
Between you and me, you'd need to crack the whip with him. He should be done.
Maybe target the middle of August. If we met somewhere in the middle of August, that would be a month before he's got everything due to RIDE, because that's like a September 15th.
And that'd be just about right to start approving some of these invoices too, right?
Yeah, we could approve the invoices. I'll finish my thought. I don't know if any of the members want to see the scope of work for the projects as they're going on at Wallaloom or Metcalf, but
I'm going to let them have at it tomorrow. They wanted to start this earlier in the week, but I wanted to wait for the building committee to go through this. But I've been contacted by both of them, and I've been on the phone with them a couple of times. So I'll get them right on it so we can get the boiler done before school opens.
Yeah.
And all that last petition stuff done too. So.
Yeah.
So I'm not around the third week of August, which would be a month from now. So we could either do something around the 12th or something around the 26th.
Sure.
26, because I'm not around the 12th.
Perfect. Wednesday the 26th, sound good?
Works.
Fine. I'll be going crazy getting the school ready to open.
Yeah, you got plenty of time. Sounds like January 1st, 2021.
You're probably correct, but I still got to get it ready for 31st.
Heard that, Lee.
Yeah, well, you know what? I spend too much time reading news.
Oof.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, tell me about it. The liberal state we live in.
Confusion. August 26th, 2021. I'll keep you guys informed as we move along.
Sounds like a plan. Good seeing everybody.
Thank you.
All right, everybody stay safe.
Thanks for attending, everybody.
Yeah.
Amy, Frank, we needed you to both.
Good night.
Right, Amy.
Thanks,
Bye.
John.
Talk to you guys later.
All right, John. Thank you.